2001's Blow is a film about daddy issues, and it isn't at all what you might be thinking based on that description. This isn't a movie about Lindsay Lohan and how many licks it can take to get to the creamy center of a Hollywood career, or what happens when drunk dad misses piano recital one too many times. Rather, Blow is about the long shadows cast by parents and the things we do in order to try and surpass them, lest we be doomed to the same tragic cycles we saw grind our elders to dust. That these Icarus-like overreachings often end in tragedy of a different kind altogether is arguably the point of Blow. It's also a based on true events story about smuggling drugs. Huge amounts of fucking drugs. Johnny Depp plays laid-back dope smuggler George Young on his rise from small-time dealer to the conduit for over 80% of the cocaine coming into the US in the early 1980s. It's an epic rise and fall kind of story with a really great here's how drug dealing works procedural element to it that I found way too entertaining. Together with a sort of motley crew, Young managed to work his way up to working for the infamous narco-trafficker Pablo Escobar. Then, like all good capitalists, they proceeded to rip each other to pieces in order to increase their own percentages. This is the predictable part of the film, mostly because we've seen this story 1,000 times since the days of Miami Vice. In fact, it would be inexcusable, really, for a movie like this to be so lazy with the stereotypes, except these were the guys the stereotypes were all made about. But the story that I kept coming back to wasn't about drugs. It was about George and his pop, a broke-down former HVAC man played by Ray Liotta. There was something really tragic and beautiful happening between these two, which impacted every other parental relationship in the film. George at once idolized his old man and feared turning out like him, broke after a lifetime of working his ass off and emasculated by his own failures. That wasn't the life George wanted, and yet the money never seems to matter to him. Money doesn't motivate George Young. People do. In all those montages, you see him partying with friends. It's why he was able to become such a great drug dealer. People mattered to George more than the money did. Everyone else around him cared more about the money than he did. The money? That was about freedom from the rat race he saw his father in. That it thrust him into another rat race entirely is something I expect George spent considerable time contemplating in prison. He is eligible for release this year, I understand it. Too late to see his pop again, unfortunately, but perhaps not too late for his daughter. And that's what I find myself wishing after seeing Blow, to see George Young get another chance with his daughter. George made some bad choices, and he may not really deserve it, but as a parent, I want to believe I will always have a chance with my children, even when I've made bad choices, and even when I've failed. I wish George that unconditional love that we hope for in family.
Dave, that definitely was a short one, dude. I mean, normally they have a tendency to go on for about 17 or 18 minutes.
I have a reputation, but
you do.
I don't know.
You definitely have.
This is what I got. This is what I got from the movie. This is, it's what I was left with.
Well, I've seen this movie a few times, and to me, it's a really good popcorn movie. I mean, there's nothing, extraordinary about it whatsoever. I mean, the story moves. It's rock and rollish. It's got great, subject matter. But I really did concentrate a little bit more on the angle that you came up with in your introduction this time, that it is really a story about the relationship between a parent and their child, which, I've always noticed it before, but like it really hit me this time more than it had ever before. So what's fascinating to me is that at the heart of this, it's really genuinely a sad story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a terribly sad story, right? I mean, because George's not really a bad guy, right? I mean, he's a bad guy. He does bad things. The drugs he brought into the country contributed to God knows how much suffering. He's certainly not done good things necessarily with his life, but at the same time, he's very easy to like, you know,
Yeah,
or at
he
least
is.
as he's portrayed in the film, right? He
By
comes
Depp,
across
yeah.
as a very easy to like kind of guy. That, you know, yeah, he's kind of right. He flew across some imaginary lines with some plants, and you know, he sort of has a point when he's being flippant with the judge there, and kind of saying, "Well, look, what's the big deal?" Uh,
Do you like Depp in this movie? I mean, do you like Depp?
Depp is just Depp, right? Like it's at
Right.
a point now where he's just, I don't know.
I don't know either at this point either, David. Even watching this movie, I really thought, I'm like, boy, if somebody else was doing this, it might have been a better movie. And I never really had that feeling about Depp before because, you know, I like his quirky stuff. You know, he's fun to watch at times, but I don't know. There's something about him in
I,
these types of movies. Like I like Donnie Brasco a lot, but even you know, and he's fine in Brasco. But even that, I'm like, boy, if they just had somebody else doing this, it could be a better movie.
my problem, and I have a similar problem, and I think it's hindsight, right? I think when we look back on a film like this, we're seeing like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Johnny Depp, right? And
Mm.
we're seeing like goofy Johnny Depp faces from you know, Fear and Loathing and stuff like that, right? Because all those things are in this movie, right? Like all those elements of characters he will come to play in the future, you sort of get them in this movie as like little ticks, right? Like
Yeah.
these little Depp-isms that are
Right.
all over the film. So now that we're sort of looking back on it, we've seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Well, maybe we haven't. I don't know. You're not missing much if you haven't. But you know,
But these types of characters, these more gritty, really down to earth characters instead of these mystical characters that he plays well. Don't get me wrong, but like guys like you know George Young and Pistone and Donnie Brasco, I just don't think it fits Depp. You know, like he looks. Hey guys, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but doesn't he just look ridiculous by the end of this movie with that wig on and that outfit and like the bodysuit to make him look heavier? It just doesn't look good. You know, it's just I'm not sold on it. You know, I mean, I like I said, I've liked this movie, but like watching it this time around for the show, it's like I liked it, I think, a little bit less. You know, and it had a lot to do with him.
Yeah, I don't buy him as an East Coast, down and dirty East Coaster. I think the guy's supposed to be from Boston, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
Like
Boston George.
yeah, I don't buy him in that, and I think that's the problem with Donnie Brasco I had as well. I like him generally, but he just not he for some reason I just
Right?
resist seeing
Right,
him
right,
as an East Coast
right,
guy,
right. So
like I
yeah,
don't.
you're onto something there, man. Because like those two movies, they're great subjects. They really are. And for some reason, they missed the mark of being
You
below.
see, like Ray Liotta fits well in that neighborhood, in that area, those type of people. So does the wife, the woman who played the wife.
Sure.
Everybody's well cast, and he does a really good. I mean, definitely dedicated. He's definitely really trying to nail the real guy, George Young. But
It doesn't work.
yeah, he just doesn't fit
It
because
doesn't fit, right?
yeah, he's become a cult of personality, at this
It
point.
just
You know
looks
what
like
I
he's
mean?
wearing a bad Halloween costume at the end of the movie, and
Yeah, he's Johnny
that's the
Depp.
worst thing that could happen to an actor, man. When you're like trying to be lost in a character and you're playing someone like this, and you just look completely ridiculous.
Well, it's funny because it was what Max had said. He got the advice from Harry Dean Stanton is be yourself, and sometimes obviously in a lot of these biopics, people are doing like these really good impersonations and everything, but sometimes you just got to be yourself. Like Jeremy Renner, I felt maybe it's because I didn't know the guy or whatever. Like I felt like he wasn't overdoing trying to mimic like somebody. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
and we
Whereas
saw, yeah,
here,
right,
you're really aware of it.
right, and we've seen Renner do a great job as Dahmer too. I mean, back, back when we first started this podcast, and you even mentioned that like his like subduedness like really worked. You know that he wasn't trying to overdo anything. That
Yeah, because he's bringing himself to the character, to the role, and not to say that Johnny Depp doesn't do that, but I do think that in this particular case, and in certain other cases, he's not being method, so much.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like he's doing a character.
Yeah.
He's doing a shtick.
It doesn't
This
work.
is the conflict that we've been talking about with with Hackman, right? Hackman, was Hackman. He played that. That's who he was, right? That's what you got when you signed Hackman up for a film. You were getting Gene Hackman, right? You
Right.
couldn't really get him to do much else but that. That's what he did. He was really good at it, and that worked for him. And I don't know, Johnny Depp's almost slid into parody, right? Like self parody.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, it's a bummer. It's a bummer anyway because I like the guy. I genuinely, I don't know the guy. He might be a total dink. I
You know what I'm
have a
saying? That
feeling
like
he's
Johnny,
not,
right? Like
but,
Harry
like,
Dean's. Yeah, right.
I like the guy, and
Yeah, I like him in a lot
probably
of
doesn't
movies. too, man.
deserve to
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
self
In a lot of
at
movies,
this point.
in a lot of movies, he's great to watch. If you see the successful portrayals of famous people, and Max would probably have more to say on this because he's actually an actor. Like just thinking of Daniel Day-Lewis doing Lincoln or something like that. There's a cult of personality there, right? And there's certain expectations that you have when you see somebody like a Lincoln being portrayed on film. But at the same point, you get this really strong feeling, gut feeling that Daniel Day-Lewis is bringing a lot of himself to that role. You know what I mean? Like he's finding himself in that role, and there's that delicate balance that I think that is struck when actors really nail something, where it's some really nice combination of yourself as a human being and finding what you share with that person that you're portraying on
So
screen.
you don't want to compare anyone to Daniel Day-Lewis. That's really not fair to anybody.
Well,
Even Johnny
hey,
Depp.
Yeah, Johnny. If you're gonna compare anybody, it's a top-rate actor as like Johnny Depp.
Right,
I
right.
mean, that guy. You know what I
Right.
mean? I know what you're saying, though. So.
Yeah, that guy's like on a different planet.
Yeah, I know. Right.
He's like
That guy was a fucking cobbler for like 5 years. He just fucked off to Italy and was a cobbler. Who the fuck does that?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
There you go. There's your answer.
Is that right? He was
Fucking awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking awesome. But it's just like, who the fuck does that? Like, yeah, whatever. I have this like hugely successful acting career, but I'm just going to fuck off to Italy and become a master cobbler.
So this was Ted Demi's last movie, too, by the way. And I'm sure, as you all probably know, he overdosed on, I don't want to say overdosed on cocaine, but like he had dropped dead of a heart attack playing basketball in Los Angeles, and they found cocaine in the system. So he was obviously a user. Interesting to know that this was his final film, and he died probably from using a drug like this. But he's got a nice, he's made a couple of nice films, Ted Demme. I really love Beautiful Girls a lot. I think that's an excellent movie. I think he was reaching for the stars for this one, and he definitely fell short, as we talked about with the Johnny Depp factor here. Max.
the Martin Scorsese factor. We were
that's why
about.
I'm segueing Max in here, because I know for a fact Max has a difficult time watching anything that even has the slightest resemblance of Goodfellas or even Casino. I'm surprised Max likes Casino because it looks like Goodfellas so much and mimics Goodfellas in so many ways. But he lets that go, I think, and enjoys Casino because it's Marty. He's allowed to do it. He could do it. He's got his own style. But movies like Blow and American Hustle and Magnolia and films like that kind of mimic that pace of Goodfellas, that style of Goodfellas, you have a real big problem with, don't you?
I do. I really do. And I saw this in theaters when it came out because back in the day, if Johnny Depp was in a movie, even Benny and June, even What's Eating Gilbert Grape, I would go see the film in theaters because I wanted to see something different because I thought this is our new Brando. But I totally agree with everything all three of you are saying. Are you there?
Yes.
Is anyone there?
We're all here.
I agree with all three of you on this thing. And does this movie have to have freeze frames and Rolling Stones songs and that Scorsese-esque pace and let Marty be Marty? I love the fact that Marty has influenced all of these fucking people and everyone is doing these giant jerk off wannabe Marty movies. But what you're doing is you're taking away from the story of this dude in the blonde wig and the fake belly. You're taking away from, yeah. Let's put Ray Liotta as the dad. I mean, how much iconography can we get here?
True.
But I have to say that Ray Liotta did a superior job as the father. Rachel Griffiths did a superior job as the mom, and
She's
they
amazing.
saved this film. Yeah, they saved
did.
the film.
Amazing.
Yeah, she
They
is
saved it.
And
Watch 6 Feet Under, man. Watch 6 Feet Under.
Absolutely,
For her.
she's
amazing.
unbelievable, and she's Australian.
And she's
I'm
younger.
just so sick
Get
of
the
these.
fuck out of here. She's Australian.
Isn't she younger than Johnny Depp too?
Correct.
Or-
I just want to say I am so done with these Scorsese wannabe movies. Everyone shoves their finger up their asshole and pulls it out and sniffs it to that P.T. Anderson porn movie. If there wasn't Martin Scorsese, there would not be P.T. Anderson. And this Ted Demme, and I forgot that he died, Tom. That was really mind-blowing. You reminded me of that. But it's just like, oh my goodness gracious. It's way too derivative of a Marty film.
Right.
I can't do him anymore. I can't.
Yeah, and he
Try different songs.
Right. Different songs are just a different take. Like, I think, like, you could get behind a movie, like, and you did get behind a movie like Wonderland, very much so, which has that kind of, it has that kind of feel, Max, but James Cox just takes a different approach to the storytelling, which makes it more interesting.
With no budget. And I'll tell you this. I'll give something to Demme. I'll give something to him. I mean, I love the fact that he cast Bobcat and Pee-wee as these.
Bobcat was awesome.
Yeah, he was. That was a great scene, actually. I mean, there are great scenes in this film, but yeah, our man Depp, it seems like he's just sort of phoning it in. Like, it's really true what Dave said. He's become an unfortunate parody of himself. Yet I keep watching. Like, I'm the idiot that's gonna rent Dark Shadows.
Don't tell me you rented Lone Ranger.
Don't do it.
No, I haven't seen that one, but I feel like I want to.
Don't do that either.
The one where he has the twisty railroad villain mustache that just came out.
Definitely don't do that.
Malachi.
Mordecai. I'm like, I want to see everything he does.
Something like
Oh,
that.
I'll tell you, yeah, he ruined that Michael Mann movie too. He was just so boring in that fucking movie. Public Enemies, when he played John Dillinger.
I didn't see that one. Oh, how do you fuck up a Dillinger film? Well,
directed by Michael Mann. You got to see this.
I don't know how that failed. You got those two titans, and that failed.
It failed.
And the giant schwanz of Dillinger.
The other day,
the reportedly giant schwanz.
The other day, I got a text from the counselor Adam, who's on this show. Johnny Depp is missing. And instead of going, oh, what? No, I got very excited. I loved the idea of Johnny Depp vanishing. I thought that was so cool. In the times of now, in the times of chaos and hell and horror and everything that's going on, all of a sudden, one of the world's most favorite personality / actors is gone. So I looked it up, and it turns out he missed some flight for the shoot of the new Pirates movie. I don't know why.
Another Pirates movie?
Tom, he's got to stop making these things.
Stop.
Man.
Everybody needs to stop making them pirates. I'm sick of this pirate bullshit.
Did he kill himself? Did he really go the distance? Did he pull the ultimate Hunter? Because let's face it, Johnny has spent his when Hunter S. Thompson killed himself, Johnny spent the rest of his life basically reincarnated as Hunter in every role and every this and every that. Hunter keeps coming up and coming up. Johnny bought the rest of Hunter's estate. He bought all of the unpublished Hunter writings. And I thought, wow, he's doing it. He's going to kill himself like Hunter did. And I feel really weird saying that I was disappointed that he didn't do that.
That's completely hilarious.
Mind.
He's disappointed Johnny Depp had shoot himself out of a cannon.
Johnny Depp
Johnny
is back
paid
on
for
the
that.
set of
Depp
Pirates.
paid for that.
He's
Johnny
fine.
Depp paid
Everyone's
for the cannon
fine.
thing.
There was some miscommunication. No worries. Vanity Fair apologized. We thought Johnny Depp was missing. I was so bummed out, guys. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here's the next Kurt Cobain. Didn't happen.
Jesus Christ,
Shotgun
man.
and a
You're out of your
typewriter, eh?
mind, dude. You're fucking crazy.
Joe, you don't like that?
That's insane. That's what
He's
he's
speaking,
saying.
Joe. He's speaking from the heart, though,
Yes, I know.
very passionately.
You can't wish for somebody's
No, I
tragic
don't wish.
death. You fucking maniac. What the fuck is the matter with
He's
you?
disappointed.
I'm a little
He's
disappointed.
a little let
That's
down.
crazy.
He's let down.
That's insane.
Guys, let down,
That's
Joe. Let him,
All right.
No more
all right.
games, no more bombs, no more walking, no more fun, no more swimming.
Oh,
67. That is 17 years past 50. 17 more than I needed or wanted.
is this what
Boring.
you have to do right now, Dave?
I am always bitchy. No fun for anybody. 67. You are getting greedy. Act your old age. Relax. This won't hurt.
Oh,
Oh,
fuck
Jesus
off,
Christ,
Dave.
So how old
man.
is Johnny
Dave.
Depp now?
He's got to be around. He's got to be
Wow.
hovering around.
He's
50,
not
right?
67.
He's
So
around
we got-
50.
So we've got time.
Okay, you just plunged me into further despair.
Thanks, Dave.
Fucking Dave.
For anybody who doesn't know, that was Hunter S. Thompson's suicide note.
And then his son went out and shot a couple bullets into the air. And then there was a documentary, exactly, Tom, about the fist cannon and the joke of that.
Well, speaking about joke documentaries about dead people, they made some weird. I haven't seen it. I just saw the trailer today. They made some weird documentary about Ted Demme, finding dead Demme. Ted Demme.
Did they really?
You guys haven't
I've
heard about
of
this?
that. When
They
did that
put
come out?
okay. Look, there's a trailer. I don't know if it's a joke trailer, if there's actually a movie. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I was scrolling around for interviews for this guy Ted Demme, and then I came across this thing. Johnny Depp's in it. The guy who's the guy in the fire fucking show.
Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary's in it.
Well,
he's-
freaking Ben.
Leary produced Blow. He's
He's
one
not
of
the
Ben
asshole
Stiller-
guy anymore. He's like surpassed being the asshole guy, and now
Listen,
he's the fire show guy.
He came up
Whatever.
with.
You know, that's the most readily recognizable. So anyway, they have Ted Demme's. They talk about Ted Demme, and then they have his ashes in a box, and they take him around, and they're freaking taking him to places where he wanted to be or whatever. They're playing basketball with his ashes, throwing him.
That's got to be a joke. I mean, but who knows?
Well, they either all got together and made this funny documentary about the guy, or they made this funny trailer.
It's
I
so
don't know.
crazy, Joe, because this past weekend I had to go down to Long Beach to the Long Beach Grand Prix, and I drove over the bridge.
You went for 420. Admit it, Max.
Yeah, totally. That Tony Scott jumped off of. And Tony Scott was Ridley Scott's brother. Ted Demme is Jonathan's brother. I'm wondering if these brothers are eating it because they're jealous and they can't hack their other brother's success.
Wait,
what's going on there?
Ted Demme was Jonathan Demme's nephew.
No, nephew. Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for the correction.
At least so goes the internet.
Well, that strikes me as an apprenticeship. Yeah. Like if Ted was working on all of Jonathan's films, yeah, because Jonathan is kind of an older fellow. So if Ted was working on all of Jonathan's films, what brought him to his pain like that?
Well, he was partying.
He was probably happy. Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Really? He was a fat guy doing coke at around 40 years old.
Yeah, you can identify with that, can't you?
I wasn't feeling any pain. I've done cocaine.
Listen, I wouldn't deny a line of cocaine, but I don't go out of my way looking for it. And I certainly wouldn't run around shooting baskets after I took it.
Yeah, 40, you're getting too old to be
You can't be doing that shit, man. Hey, listen, this is why back to father and sons real quick. That's why my dad had a stroke. Big part of it throughout his 40s, he was doing fucking blow. You smoking it, snorting it. You can't be doing that shit, man. It's not a good idea. It'll ruin you. You got to listen. You're a young man. You want to try things, 30 up until you're 30, 31, 32. I certainly did. Yeah.
I am trying so hard to give you credibility right now, but you're going to the pharmacy for gout medication.
All right.
I mean, Tom, you got to watch out for these guys who do the blow.
I'm talking about cocaine here, Max.
But Tom,
I have a condition.
Tom, it's a condition in your body. It's an infection. I don't know what it is. It's a terrible thing that's happening within you.
Tom, are you going to be able to get out of this in 2 minutes so you can get down to the pharmacy?
I have to go. But listen, Max, my gout has not been hitting me as often. I just have a slight discomfort in my foot area, and I know what that is. It's, sometimes it could blow up to be the gout, and I need to be prepared because I need to work all weekend and make money. That's all.
I understand, man. I want you to go and take care of your problem, but I don't want you to keep staying on the medication when there are other ways to prevent these flare-ups from happening. That's all.
I am with you, and I have not really had a bout with this condition in a while where I've been bedridden. So it has improved.
Joe, have you ever seen Tom's gout? Like physically? Have you smelled it?
No.
Is gout a thing you see?
Yes, it's a flare-up, Dave. It's a hot pink giant flare-up on a knee.
I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and I hope the listeners can understand. I have a medical condition.
Oh my God!
It's completely legit. I gotta end this.
We're being led into the fire by a guy.
Podcast is from me by Christian
as his computer fades out.
Show editing code.
It's appropriate. Yeah, whatever.
I know.
You're static now.
That's Tom's gout getting in the way of his
the
words.
Ultimate allegory. What just happened?
Well, stop. Speaking over.
Oh my God, Tom!
We also like to thank
That's Tom. That's Tom's gout spreading to his computer.
We are out. Ciao.
Oh my God, Tom! You just gouted yourself out.
I gotta
go, guys.
Go get your medicine, Tom. All right. Nobody can hear him. He's yelling at.
There's nothing going on.
I wish I had the list of the plugs because I would just read them right now. I don't.
The Zillatones.
You gotta leave it just
to
like
the
that. You gotta leave it just like that.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had the
care
plugs.
What happens? You have to leave it. I don't give a fuck who reads the plugs at the end. You have to leave it just like that. That was amazing.
Tune in next time to satisfy more of your strange desires. The Cutting Room Movie Podcast. We do chicken right.
Fucking drugs. Johnny Depp plays laid-back dope smuggler George Young on his rise from small-time dealer to the conduit for over 80% of the cocaine coming into the U.S. in the early 1980s. It's an epic rise and fall kind of story with a really great here's how drug dealing works procedural element to it that I found way too entertaining. Together with a sort of motley crew, Young managed to work his way up to working for the infamous narco-trafficker Pablo Escobar. Then, like all good capitalists, they proceeded to rip each other to pieces in order to increase their own percentages. This is the predictable part of the film, mostly because we've seen this story 1,000 times since the days of Miami Vice. In fact, it would be inexcusable, really, for a movie like this to be so lazy with the stereotypes, except these were the guys the stereotypes were all made about. But the story that I kept coming back to wasn't about drugs. It was about George and his pop, a broke-down former HVAC man played by Ray Liotta. There was something really tragic and beautiful happening between these two, which impacted every other parental relationship in the film. George at once idolized his old man and feared turning out like him, broke after a lifetime of working his ass off and emasculated by his own failures. That wasn't the life George wanted, and yet the money never seems to matter to him. Money doesn't motivate George Young. People do. In all those montages, you see him partying with friends. It's why he was able to become such a great drug dealer. People mattered to George more than the money did. Everyone else around him cared more about the money than he did. The money? That was about freedom from the rat race he saw his father in. That it thrust him into another rat race entirely is something I expect George spent considerable time contemplating in prison. He is eligible for release this year, I understand it. Too late to see his pop again, unfortunately, but perhaps not too late for his daughter. And that's what I find myself wishing after seeing Blow, to see George Young get another chance with his daughter. George made some bad choices, and he may not really deserve it, but as a parent, I want to believe I will always have a chance with my children, even when I've made bad choices, and even when I've failed. I wish George that unconditional love that we hope for in family. "2001's Blow is a film about daddy issues, and it isn't at all what you might be thinking based on that description. This isn't a movie about Lindsay Lohan and how many licks it can take to get to the creamy center of a Hollywood career, or what happens when drunk dad misses piano recital one too many times. Rather, Blow is about the long shadows cast by parents, and the things we do in order to try and surpass them, lest we be doomed to the same tragic cycles we saw grind our elders to dust. That these Icarus-like overreachings often end in tragedy of a different kind altogether is arguably the point of Blow. It's also a based on true events story about smuggling drugs. Huge amounts of...
Dave, that definitely was a short one, dude. I mean, normally they have a tendency to go on for about 17 or 18 minutes.
I have a reputation, but
you do.
I don't know.
You definitely have.
This is what I got. This is what I got from the movie. This is, it's what I was left with.
Well, I've seen this movie a few times, and to me, it's a really good popcorn movie. I mean, there's nothing, extraordinary about it whatsoever. I mean, the story moves. It's rock and rollish. It's got great, subject matter. But I really did concentrate a little bit more on the angle that you came up with in your introduction this time, that it is really a story about the relationship between a parent and their